Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Play Like a Girl. I'm your host Gianna Cambria as always, and this week I'm so excited to say that we have a phenomenal guest with us with an amazing background story. So I want you guys to help me introduce Erica Barnes, who is a 2 times Master World Champion in Jiu Jitsu. So let's bring her on with us. Hi Erica.
Hey guys, how's it going?
We're good. How are you?
Doing awesome. I can't complain. Couldn't be better.
Great. So how was your day? Anything crazy happened today, or was it just a normal day at home?
Man, it's a normal day of playing a game of spinning plates and which one's spinning the fastest and which one's teetering the hardest and trying to keep it all in balance. And it's an adventure. It's fun.
Okay, great. So I wanted to jump into the first question I had for you, which I'm sure everybody is interested in hearing, how you actually got into jiu-jitsu.
Well, I wish I had a more eloquent story than this, but to be honest, it was my ex. He was a firefighter and trained under a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, and they would talk about it at work and how cool it was and how great it would be if I could learn self-defense. And so he tried to get me to it, and I thought, I don't want to put that stupid outfit on and go put my face in unmentionable places. I have zero interest in this at all. But he kind of stayed on me about it. I'm so glad he did, and said, just give it a week. And so my very first lesson, my instructor was demonstrating a strangulation technique, and his uke actually passed clean out, like convulsions, the whole 9 yards. And I think most maybe sane people would be like, peace out, this is not for me, but I just immediately thought it was so fascinating. And it's just like the beginning of a love story for me. So
Yeah. Well, that's great though. And I've definitely felt that before with my sport. We wear costumes. I was a synchronized figure skater.
Oh, awesome.
So we wore costumes, and I was like, what is it going to be this year? Like, how many sparkles is it? I was like, I'm onto the ice, like, because sometimes you don't know the costume until like 1 month before your competition, and we don't really get a say. So it's just like, okay, I got to wear it.
And sometimes you probably were totally feeling it, and sometimes you were like, this is not me.
Yes, definitely. That's how me and my teammates felt the whole time.
Gotta push through.
Yes, exactly. So were you hesitant at all, like getting into the sport, and what was one thing that you were hoping to accomplish in your initial phase with it?
Yes, I was hesitant. I think I had never heard of it. And I honestly kind of felt embarrassed about it. I really didn't talk to my friends about doing it. I didn't share it on my social media. I just think I was unsure what it meant about me getting involved with martial art. And it was kind of a cultish kind of feeling. I wasn't sure how I felt about it, and was I gonna, be shunned by my friends that were kind of on the more feminine side, and in this like very masculine, learning how to like choke people and break their arms and all this stuff. So I was a little worried about what it might look like and if I might kind of lose who I was. So it definitely held me back for a while. But initially, I just wanted to learn some self-defense. I had 2 little kids, and I just thought it was a great way to stay in shape and kind of learn some things about keeping myself safe and my family safe. And then once I got exposed to the competitive side of things, that's when I started getting really excited about it.
Yeah. So I love that you say that, because I find myself a lot watching videos of self-defense and, what you would do in certain situations. And I think it's great that there's a sport that teaches women and men, like what to do if they get themselves stuck in difficult situations. And honestly, if you were my mom, and if my mom did this, I'd feel so safe around her, because I know that she would be able to help me in any situation that I would find myself into.
Absolutely. It's like a major confidence booster. I definitely think it's not that you feel like you can walk into a room and any dude I can, fight. That's always everyone's question. Oh, you think you could take me in a fight and whatever. Like, it's really just more about, I know what to do if I'm in that situation. It takes a lot of the fear away of, what would I do if somebody tried to attack me? I know what I would do. So
Yeah,
it's pretty great.
yeah, that is great. And it's, I know, like, obviously in the 21st century, so much can happen, and
Mhm.
there's so many stories on the news. So, being a female and learning self defense is a plus in this society, honestly.
So much so, and there's been so much information out in the news. It's kind of a cliche, but the Me Too movement is a pretty important one. And I think, particularly in sports environments, it can be kind of confusing for women to know how to navigate all of that. And this is a really powerful tool to take the reins back and feel like if you're in a situation where things are going a direction you don't want them to go, you know what to do, and your no gets backed up with a "I'll break your arm or choke you out if you keep pushing." So it's
Definitely.
very empowering.
So, I know when we were like getting to know each other earlier, you told me that a lot of people look at the sport in a masculine way, and you said that when you began competing or getting into it, you were scared that you were going to lose your femininity. So, how
Mhm.
did you strive through this as a female athlete?
So um, I was contemplating this in the context of the different people that you've interviewed thus far and their sports, and what is it like to be in this particular athletic arena where I don't necessarily compete against men, although that has been the case for upper belt women in the past. When they couldn't find enough competitors, they would start competing against guys. But we definitely train with them every single day. And it is a kind of a strange dichotomy between men and women once you get on the mat and you're both trained in the same way, but it's not like golf or something where you're kind of completely independent of one another, or even in figure skating. You've got a very different kind of role for the man than for the woman.
Yeah.
In this instance, we're taught the same moves,
hmm
and I'm a 135-pound
hmm
girl, and I'm going to go roll with a 215-pound dude. And he just learned the same move that I did, and now we got to see how that works. And um, men are built differently, and you can really get that sense on the mat. But it's really, again, an empowering and interesting process to see how we can bring our genetic differences to the table and actually overcome guys. And it's really fun once you reach that point when you know enough where I can submit a lot of grown men at this point fairly easily, because I've been given the tools and techniques to do it, even though I'm a female. Technique wins over strength. So
Yeah,
it's pretty
that
cool.
is that's very true. But I were you a little intimidated when you first got into it, and you were like this 100, like you said, 135-pound girl when you were standing next to that 215-pound guy? Were you, when you first walked in, you were like, whoa, like, I don't know if I can do this. How am I going
Yes.
to get through it?
Yes. And and was I going to be respected on the mat? What was I going to be treated in a way where my skills and intellect and abilities on the mat were respected, but also that they didn't just, lay on me with their 250 pounds and, keep me from being able to work any technique. And for sure, at first, a lot of gyms offer all female classes, and I think that's to help women feel like they at least know enough of the moves and kind of start to get familiar where they'd be more comfortable rolling with men. But really, honestly, once you get a knowledge base, it stops being a thing. I don't even notice gender when I get on the mat anymore, really. I kind of more analyze what's your body type, and are you lanky, or are you have thick thighs, or are you going to be hard to choke out? And I just start formulating my plan based on that, as opposed to as much being about the gender.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I mean, I wish that other women in sports thought about what they're doing in that type of way, because a lot of them look at the male and they're just like, am I ever going to be able to do what he can do? Whereas, like, some people are like, I know I can do it. And if I just strive for the best, I can do whatever I want to do. It doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, and where you're from.
Absolutely. I wish gender was less of factor that people take into consideration. Start thinking more about like your body type. What do you have to offer? Are you super flexible? Are you super fast? Do you think quick on your feet? You know, there are so many other components besides just our gender that play into what are we bringing to our individual sports. And would love to see the focus be much less on what our gender is and really more about, you know, how can you bring your best version of your strengths and improve upon your weaknesses in whatever your individual sport is.
Definitely. So what is one thing that you would say your sport has positively affected your well-being, but like your emotional as well as mental well-being? How has it positively had an impact?
Oh my God, so much so. It's you hear so many people on the mat say Jiu Jitsu saved my life, and there are people that have literal stories of Jiu Jitsu saving their life, as in their health and what they were doing with their life. Others, like myself, it saved my life from a perspective that it saved me from the life that I was living, and it gave me the life that I wanted to live. And a lot of that has to do with the community that Jiu-Jitsu gave me, the sense of purpose, the even just psychologically, the effect of having physical contact with people all the time. You know, something I loved about I played a bunch of sports when I was younger. I wasn't particularly talented at any of them, but there's that kind of group and camaraderie, and even like the slapping hands at the end of a baseball game or whatever it is. We're designed to be in community and interact with one another, and jiu-jitsu gives you this really very connected experience on the mat. And so it's just the endorphin release that you get is like nothing else. You have all the adrenaline and the fight to flight and the huge rush that you get from that. You have the big dopamine response if you remember to move or figured out the right, you know, puzzle piece to plug in at the right moment. And then you just have this great serotonin release because you're so tired after training. And so you just really get all the great emotions and feelings from rolling. It's great.
Wow, you make me want to try it, honestly.
Me too, yes.
I'm inspired to just get on a mat and sign up for a class.
I can only imagine how strong your legs are with all the training that you've had. So you probably would be so dangerous with those legs.
Maybe I'll try that.
Yeah.
So, obviously any athlete participating in sports like struggle with the fear of failure. And I know I did so many times throughout my career. So how did you reduce the struggle in your career, and what advice would you give to those who are still struggling with this?
Sure. When I was younger, like I said, any of the sports that I played, I wasn't particularly fantastic at any of them. I had an older brother and a younger brother, and they both played sports, and they were both better at everything than I was. And I just felt like I tried so hard, and I was just always on the cusp. I got told all the time that I was athletic and I had all these, you know, skills, but it just wasn't connecting. And I was told a lot of the same things when I started jiu-jitsu, that I would do really well and that I should try competing. And I think that it's just this challenging moment where you say, okay, if I put myself out there and compete, I'm really measuring myself up against everyone else, and I might find out that I'm not as good as that I want to be. And it takes a lot of humility to be able to accept that there are people that are better than you are and that you might not do great at it. And you might even embarrass yourself. You might go to sleep or, you know, whatever it is. And I think that's been another amazing gift that jiu-jitsu gives, is it gives you an opportunity. Every time you step on the mat, you have to overcome those fears, and you have to get over that, and you have to decide that winning and losing gives you two different sets of gifts. You know, winning feels great. It's people, I feel like winning is kind of like getting the flower crown, and it's showy and it's fun and it's exciting, and you post your pictures and everybody's yay, you know. And then you lose and it kind of sits on you like a stone for a little while, but you take that stone and it builds the platform that you climb to get to higher heights. And ultimately, the failures have taught me so much more in life than the winning ever did. So I would say the big thing to get over it is just think of all of it as an experience and all of it as a positive thing. And every part of winning and losing improves you as a person and will take you to better places than you were before. So really, what's the risk?
Yeah, definitely. I agree. And, you know, as you were talking about that, I just remembered something that happened to me, like one of my experiences as an athlete. And so when you are a figure skater, you have to, you know, complete tests to become a gold medalist in United States figure skating. And I was on my gold test, and I would get up every morning before school at like 5:30 in the morning to go practice with my sister and my brother. We all played like winter based sports. So I would go to a practice, and it would just be me on the ice one day. And I just was going through my test because it was around the, and something in me was just like, I can't do it, you know, and nothing was working the way I wanted it to work. None of my edges were hitting. None of my turns were what I was expecting them to be. And I literally on the ice just sat down and started crying to myself. I was like, there's no way that I'm going to be able to pass this test. I was like 16, 17 years old. I was so in my head. And I was like letting the fear of failure get to me. And honestly, I did not pass my test, and I had another, like, obviously you can take it as many times as you want. I got the gold on my second time, but I took a step back. I got injured after that. I fractured my ankle, and I was just like, this is either a sign or it's a way for me to learn from the mistakes that I made or learn from not being so confident with myself and turn it around. And, you know, I really learned a lot. Like, I never called my coaches as much as I did then because I was like at a point where I was like, do I keep going? Like, does this injury mean that I should stop? Like, I don't know. And just like listening to my coaches talk to me on the phone was inspiring to me as an athlete, and it just pushed me towards that goal, and it pushed me to want to be successful. And I think that was the most that I've learned from the fear of failure as an athlete.
That hardens something kind of inside of you when you look the possibility of quitting in the face, and then you turn away from it. And there's just something extremely empowering about every time you look fear in the face or you look quitting in the face and you say, not today.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
yeah, that's cool. That's
It's just
amazing.
a different experience as well when you know that, because when you are doing an individual sport, you just think about yourself really, and you think about how you want to get forward, and you think that you're the only person who really cares. So just like having my coach there for me on my phone telling me that she wants this as bad as I do just made me want to like keep pushing through.
It's amazing how having an external force can help motivate you. And I would say, that's something that I would recommend as well as when you're kind of getting in your own head. I had a pretty big competition, American Nationals competition, and I had competed really well all through my Jiu Jitsu career. And this is the first time that I went in to compete and I got knocked out in the very first round, which had never happened to me before. And I was just pretty disappointed about my experience, and I thought, maybe this is a sign, maybe I should be moving on. And I had a girlfriend at the time who also trained, was going through cancer, was battling cancer, and was unable to train and unable to compete because of what she was going through. And I saw her at the tournament after I, got put to sleep. Actually, it was the first time I ever got put to sleep on a mat. And she said, but it's just, you're so lucky that you get to be here. Even if you lose, like, you're just having such an amazing experience, an amazing life to even be involved with all of this. And I went home and I thought, I'm going to come back tomorrow. The next day was no-gi. And I'm going to come back tomorrow, and I'm not fighting for me. I'm fighting for my friend, Marina. And I want to represent what she's unable to do with her life right now. And I had one of the best runs of my life and won my adult no-gi Pan American Championship that day. And it's just 100% motivated by an external force like that. So
that's so empowering, honestly, if you think about it.
yeah, find a source outside yourself.
Yeah, exactly. That just honestly, that just reminded me of something else. My sister and I, we skated on the same team growing up in one of our coach is the founder. Actually, she was the founder of our team. Got really sick with breast cancer. She had stage 4, and she ended up passing away a couple of years ago, or actually almost. I think I was in my freshman year of high school when she passed away. So a long time ago, and or eighth grade, and it was just hard on the whole team because she was all of our coaches, and she was somebody who kept us coming in with a smile on our face because she brought so much laughter and joy to the ice. And there was like, there's always, we were always scared of her in a way because she would like be hard on us, but we would love her because she would be our family at the same time. And when she did pass away, our whole team just came together at the rink and we did like a light ceremony outside for her. And I think it was then and there that my teammates and I just realized that every competition and every practice when we stepped on the ice was for her. And we wanted to make the team better and grow as a team for her. And honestly, our team went from being so small to the girls 2 years ago started representing the United States of America on our team. So, and we
That's
just,
amazing.
yeah, and we just looked back at her and we're just like, we did this for you and you inspired us to do this. So.
It's kind of a special experience when you start to become in these like upper echelons of your sports and you realize whether you're in a coaching role or whether you're just in the athlete role, you are inspiring other people behind you. And sometimes when you're not in the right motivation for yourself, if you can be motivated for other people, if your performance is kind of more dedicated to other people, or if you want to just be a role model for other people, I think it can kind of help get you out of your headspace if you're on a slump or something like that. So it's pretty powerful what external motivation can do. So
Yeah, definitely. So, I do like when I was writing up these questions for you, I was at like getting ready for what I wanted to discuss with you. You told me that a lot of people use the sport to release pain or anger that they're feeling in themselves or in the world or whatever is going on in their lives. So I was curious and I wanted to ask you why you think it's important to turn anger into confidence and help those, or how the jiu-jitsu world can help you with that.
yeah, so I, in general, am a pretty like happy-go-lucky person, but I've had definitely a couple of pretty challenging or low moments in the last 5 years, and I will say I think that there can be a healthy mixture, right? Like there's something probably I would imagine you've gone out on the ice and you just like had a really bad day and you just like really hit your turns hard or whatever it is because you just kind of have a little extra fire or extra fuel there. Um, and when you train, almost daily and you're on the mat, obviously there's a lot of room for aggression on the mat if you want, and so you can kind of bring that to the mat. And it's funny how you'll see people like kind of coming on the mat and they're all like grumpy and frustrated or whatever, and then by the end of it they're feeling pretty good and happy and they come off smiling. But I have one time in particular that so I feel like it's okay to like sometimes use a little of your like daily angst or irritation or whatever to kind of fuel you a little bit if that helps. But I feel like is that as far as being a motivator, it definitely was not helpful for me. I went through a pretty challenging time last year,
Mm-hmm.
last September, and I had a really important title fight, a stage fight for the purple belt title for Fight to Win.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not myself. I was not in a good headspace. I just was totally consumed with what was going on in my life at the time. And I remember being backstage and just being like, I can't find like the light and love and joy and happiness that I'm usually using to power me in jiu-jitsu. And so I'm just going to try taking all of my pain and hurt and anger and bring that on the mat and, just use that to like power my way into things. And and that fight did not go well. I did not win that fight. And I had a lot of my teammates reach out to me and be like, what was going on? That was not you on the stage. You were being crazy and aggressive and not moving well. And, that was not a very good representation of your jiu-jitsu. And I was like, yeah, that was a mistake.
Mhm.
And nothing changed about my circumstances from then on. The hard things were still hard, and but I realized at that time, um, going out and trying to focus on the worst parts of life really kind of close off your creativity and I think your strength. And so I resolved from then on to find something positive and really just take the love of the sport out. Every major competition, I'll have like all this angst. I know you had to have felt the same way before
Yeah,
any of your
exactly.
big competitions. You're just like nauseated, you're running through all the scenarios and you're like, why am I even doing this? And then for me, every day except for that day, I would wake up the morning of and be like, oh my God, I love jujitsu so much. I can't wait to get on the stage or get on the mat or go do this tournament and do the thing I love to do the best that I can.
Mhm.
And I really do feel like that is the best mentality to take out onto the arena or the mat or whatever it is.
Yeah, definitely. I 100% agree with what you just said, but I'm curious. So those days, obviously, not every day is like the best day in the world. It's not going to be a sunshine day. There's always going to be a day where you're just like it's too much, or you feel like you can't do it, or there's just something that happened that put you in a bad mood. What is like that one thing that you usually go to or look at or turn towards that would, get you out of that head state and get you ready for the day or your training?
I really believe in the power of positive thinking. We have so much ability to control what's in our heads, and it's before jujitsu, I was a big time yogi. I really enjoyed doing yoga. Still enjoy doing yoga. And I imagine this is also pretty relevant for you on the ice. Your attention, your focus, your drishti in yoga, your spot. Whatever when you're doing your turns, your focus it has everything to do with whether your movements are clean and focused or not. Right.
Mhm.
Um, the same is true for our mentality when um, I feel like I've got just a lot of chafe in my head, just like too much going on and a lot of angst and a lot of upset and all of that. It's helpful for me to just pull out a single thought, and just really focus on that thought. And um, specifically relating to jiu-jitsu, I end up just focusing on the times that I've had so much joy on the mat, whether that was training, whether that was laughing with a teammate, whether that was, getting put to sleep and waking up and laughing and everybody being like, all right, Sleeping Beauty, like what happened to you? Or, whatever it is, just find something that brings you a lot of joy about what you're doing. And just for me, hanging on to that and not letting all of the, what if you lose this? What if you're, can't get this? What if you were a has-been? What if you were only ever going to be great at this belt level and you're not going to continue on this same path? And for me, I just have to like clear those thoughts out and stay focused on what I love about the sport. And
Yeah,
so far that's working.
definitely. Like it makes me think about, as an athlete, there's been many times where I was like, I don't want to go into training today, or like I just don't feel like it, or whatever was happening that day. Like if I was in a bad mood, but I would try to look at my younger self and think about why I started my sport, and think about why I got
Mm,
into it and what made me keep it up for however many years I did it for. And thinking about like that young girl that had a smile on her face at her first competition was one of the things that really kept me going, because I just remembered how much I enjoyed it.
yeah.
It's struggle sometimes. You just really think about it like that.
Yeah, and there's a speech, and my gosh, I can't remember the actor's name right now. I'm the worst with names, but he's like the guy from like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days and all of that. He went to UT. Can't remember his name right now,
Mhm.
but he's giving his acceptance speech, and he's said that somebody asked him who his hero was, and he said, "It's me 5 years from now."
Wow.
And he said, check back with me, in 5 years. And 5 years later, he said, who's your hero? And he's like, well, I'm not my own hero yet, but it's going to be me 5 years from now. And I love this idea of this motivation that you're always trying to reach that point where you're proud of yourself and you've achieved what you want to achieve for yourself. You know, obviously never arrive, but if you try to set your own self up as your future hero, it kind of keeps you focused on where you're going.
Yeah, that's true. And I always look at, I'm one of those people who look forward to my future, and I am constantly like questioning what I'm going to do, if I'm going to be happy. But I know that as long as I have the people in my life that I have right now, um, and I stay on the same, you know, like page that I want to be on, I guess I will be happy. But it's just like it's so hard to think about your future as well because you never know what's going to happen, but you can
Yeah.
only hope for it.
It's so true. And especially in specifically in an athletic environment, we don't ever know if we're going to get injured to a point where we have to stop. You know, we always have to, in your sport in particular, knee injuries are so prominent. You know, knee injuries are super prominent in the athletic or in the jiu-jitsu world too. And so it's like you can set up all these goals and all these things you want to do, but, you know, you may have some life circumstance happen that keeps you from being able to do it, or you may physically no longer be able to do it from some injury. And so you kind of always have to hold your dreams with a little bit of a loose grasp and hopefully with, you know, a balance of some other things in your life too, because I don't think it's ever the best thing to only be focused on your sports. I think you need balance in your life, or ultimately, whether you achieve your goals or don't achieve your goals, either way, you're going to be so disappointed if that's the only thing you ever cared about.
Definitely. Yeah. Honestly, I work at a rink right now and I teach younger girls. And, you know, looking at them going through the same thing that I went through, I look on my life now and I'm like, why was I so like hard on myself for specific things, or why was I so passionate about one thing and not so passionate about the other, even though they both made up who like made the woman I grew into. And it's just so odd. It's just so odd thinking of it as in a different perspective now because like I am the one teaching, whereas I was the one learning, and it's like I can't believe I put myself through half of the stuff that I put myself through.
I know, it is crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. So I
And that's the coach's goal, I guess, is to keep them dialed in. So to give them that perspective and then say, someday maybe you'll understand why I'm making you do this.
sure. I'm just like sometimes. So my girls are like, "Why are you making me do it? Like, why do I have to keep doing it?" Like, I'm like, "Come on, do you wanna get this far in the future? Like, I went through the same thing you did. Just listen to me. Like, I know, I know some
Yeah,
things you don't want to do it, but so
you hear that.
I was wondering how winning worlds as a master blue belt made you feel empowered as an athlete during that stage of your life. Because obviously that's a huge accomplishment.
It was definitely one of the best days of my life. I'll say that. It was really my best jujitsu day ever. It's the most fights I ever got to fight. So it was the biggest bracket I ever had. So I had 5 fights to win. And I just, it was same kind of thing was, you know, it was my second Masters Worlds experience, my first Masters Worlds experience. I had just got my blue belt and I really just went for the experience. I didn't expect a podium. And the second time around, I had won lots of local competitions at that point. But I went in with so many nerves, you know, and it's in Vegas and it's this huge thing, and the stakes are pretty high. And it was the same kind of thing. And you're worried about cutting weight. I don't know if you've had that experience. I know you've had to like work hard to stay on weight. I don't know if you've ever had to like cut weight to make a certain weight at a certain. So that is a lot of stress as well. But that morning I woke up, I was on weight enough to where I could actually eat. That was really exciting because I didn't know if I was going to be able to eat that day. And I didn't fight until that night. And it was the same kind of thing. I kind of had nerves right up until I was ready to get on the mat. And then it was just like this peace wash over me. And it was like, just go do the thing that you love to do so much. And I had 3 of my 5 fights were submissions. The rest of them were pretty dominating performances. Nobody scored a point on me in all 5 fights. And so it was just, and the funny thing is I kind of lost track of where I was in the fight. So when I finished my finals fight, I thought it was the semifinals. So it's like I finished and everybody like, oh, you know, like so excited. And I was just like, woo, and I like run over and I get all my stuff and I run back over to the staging area. And I'm like looking at the screens, trying to figure out where my next fight is, or and then I look over at the guy running the screens, and I was like, when's my next fight? And he's like, you're done. You're a world champion. I was like, what? So I didn't even realize what was happening when it happened, but it was pretty fun.
No, that's so funny that you say that because obviously the Olympic Games are happening right now, and I think it was one of the United States swimmers didn't wear her glasses in the pool or her contacts, and she didn't realize that she was the winner, and she was just like looking up at the screen squinting, and it was like such a delayed moment, and it's just those are the best, honestly.
Yeah. And it really is that after the fact.
And I feel like that's one of the most one of the best or one of the most funny moments you're going to look back at in your athletic career. But actually, I think it was the Canadian swimmer. I'm thinking of it. It wasn't the United States swimmer. But
well,
yeah.
Still, we can cheer for somebody to.
But like as an athlete, I'm sure so many people have had that moment, and it's just like I'm sure you look back on that moment every single day, and you're like, "Wow, I did that."
It's pretty fun. I mean, it's a pretty cool experience, but with each one, you just kind of like you wake up and you're like, okay, yeah, that was cool. What's the next one? And so it's just like with each thing that comes along, I think it's gonna be sad and hard when I reach that threshold where I'm like, I'm like finally old enough where I can't really compete and I can't really keep up, and it might lose some of its appeal at that time. But right now, I'm just like gunning for black belt. What like they say, whatever you've won, like that's awesome, but what really matters is what you can win as a black belt. So I've just been pushing as hard as I can to get there as fast as I can. So I feel like I'm literally racing the clock to get there, but I'm close.
Fingers crossed. I mean, you're amazing right now, so hopefully in the future you'll get to that soon. So
Thank you. I'm planning on it.
no problem. So I was just also wondering, like, what are your strengths as an athlete, but also as a person?
I feel like they probably are the same. I feel like my superhero skill is maybe my ability to balance a lot of things. So I that skill runs across a lot of things. I'm actually not just a jiu-jitsu competitor, but I own an interior design company as well. And I have 2 kids and I'm a single mom, and just kind of have a lot. I renovate my house and I travel a lot and I do all these different things. And so I kind of feel like I have all these spinning plates in the air all the time. And that also translates on the mat. I think one of my skill sets is I'm pretty good at managing multiple things at once. One of my fight to wins, the announcers were saying that my opponent, was just throwing everything she had at me, and arms and legs and everything was everywhere. And he's like, it's like spinning plates everywhere, but Erica's just like managing everything and on top of everything. And she's controlling this foot here and she's controlling this head here. And, and so I feel like that's kind of my skill set, is that you can't ever have everything perfectly in balance, right? That's physically impossible. But I try to keep my eye towards all my things. How are my kids doing? How is my business doing? How is jiu-jitsu doing? How are all these things? How's my health? How's my friendships? How's my relationships with my family? And this getting off balance. I haven't talked to my friends in a month. I need to like make some time to see them. Or, my kids, I've been dragging them to the mat every night. They're like, by Thursday night, they're over it. We need to just have a family meal and play games at home and just be chill. And, so it's just all these different, just kind of trying to keep the balance all the time. So both on and off the mat, I kind of feel like that's my superpower.
Yeah, well, that's great though. It's great to be organized, and I have been trying to do that, like getting into it lately, because I feel like everything is everywhere for me. I'm like here in one place and then the other. I'm like rushing 30 minutes to get somewhere else, and then like I'm trying to do this and that and that. So I've just been trying to stay organized, and I feel like as a person, when you stay organized, you have more control of the way that you feel, or you have more control of what happens in your whereabouts. And I feel like I wouldn't be so anxious, or I wouldn't be so on edge if I just had everything planned accordingly instead of just being so hectic and chaotic all over the place.
Absolutely. And I think so much of that is also about goal setting, because if you're like me and you are that person that wants to be able to be good at everything and do everything, and I want to be a great friend and I want to be a good sister and I want to have a great interior design company and I want to be the best at, my division in jiu-jitsu, I have all these goals. Um, Goal setting is just super important. And so I'll look at things and I'll be like, okay, I've got, for instance, Pan American Championship coming up, and Masters World, and ADCC, and
Mhm.
that's all kind of back to back to back. So I've already talked to my employees and been like, look, I'm going to be gone a lot. I have to day train, I have to pro train, I have to put in the extra work during that time. So I can't be, as involved with the boss, and my work is going to suffer a little bit, but that has to do with the goals that I've set. So I think a lot of the anxiety comes when you haven't really established what your priorities are. And, if you can like kind of map it all out, and these are all the things that are important to me, we all have the same pizza pie of time. And
Yeah.
if you give a bigger slice to this, that means something else is getting the smaller slice. But if you've already established that in your head and been like, okay, I know I'm just not going to work as much during that time, or I know I'm not going to see my friends as much, and, but I'm going to make up for it after the fact, then maybe there'll be a little less anxiety.
Yeah. Well, what a great way to look at that. I've never thought about it that way, though. It's interesting. Like, we have the same pizza pie of time. I never thought about like
Mhm.
who I give more of a slice to than others, you know?
Um, it's been a kind of a game changer for me, because I think so often people are like, how are you doing? I'm so busy, and I'm so busy, or I haven't had time to do this. And I've really tried to reframe the way I communicate about those things. And instead of saying I haven't had time, I'm forcing myself to say I haven't taken the time to do that,
Mhm.
because I've had the time. I've just not chosen to spend it that particular way. And we make it sound like we're just kind of a victim of how much time we have, but everybody has the same 24/7, 365. So we get to decide how we spend our pizza pie.
Definitely. So I'm curious. I know you told me about American Nationals at the purple belt. So I am wondering what happened. Like, can you tell us about the injury that you obtained throughout the match and previous to the competition?
Yeah, so that American Nationals was that kind of fateful weekend where I went in and I got dust on my face and I got put to
Yeah.
sleep in my gi for my. I compete in for the divisions, are you fight your weight and belt level, and then you can fight any weight at your belt level. So uh, and you can do that in both gi and no gi. So I do all four usually, and the first day is gi. And in my division, that's the one I got knocked out in the very first round, and got put to sleep. And that had never happened to me before. And then I did the open class and got tossed on my face hard, and lost that fight by points as well. And so that was the one where I kind of went home, or was kind of down on myself and down on the experience, until I was like, okay, I'm going to come back and fight for Marina. And the next day, I did really well in my division. I won in my division at the adult level,
Mhm.
um, and then went on to do the open class. And I fought this like Amazon of a woman. She was like 6 foot and so strong, and had a great wrestling background. And I knew I'd hurt my back when I was fighting her, but you have so much adrenaline in your body, you don't like really notice it. You just kind of fight through it. And I got done the fight, and I was like, oh no, this is not good. And it was 3 weeks before the Purple Belt Masters Worlds tournament
Mhm.
in Orlando, and I could not train. I was in so much pain. I couldn't really breathe. I had to like stack pillows up, to like sleep kind of upright at night. I went to all kinds of therapy, and I was like, no, you know. And people were like, "What are you gonna do? Are you gonna pull out?" And I was like, "Nope. I'm
Mhm.
just gonna go, and I won't have trained for 3 weeks, which is the worst. You lose your timing and your cardio and everything." Um, and I just decided to go in, and I took 800 milligram of ibuprofen just like 20 minutes before I fought, which kills your cardio even more. But and got on the mat for my Masters Worlds, and broke my toe 30 seconds into the match, like as in my big toe was like pointing the wrong direction. Which I didn't really notice very much in the fight. I was able to do well in that fight, and I got the submission and everything. And I was getting my hand raised, and I like look down and I see my toes like pointing the wrong way. I was like, ugh. So like hobble off the mat and like pull it back into place and start taping it up. And my coach was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I broke my toe." And she was like, "Get back on the mat and do your thing," you know? And so unfortunately I only had 2 fights for that. And my back hurt so bad. I really didn't even notice my toe hurting. Like it really wasn't even a thing. My back, I was just like, I literally couldn't see. I was in so much pain. It was just kind of like everything blacked out. So it was just kind of like going by feel. And I really didn't do anything very exciting. And it was a terrible match. And I only won by rest decision, which is so unsatisfying in comparison to the other ways you can win. But I'm still kind of proud of the experience. You know, I would have rather just been healthy and done really awesome, but it was another opportunity to prove to myself that it's about mental more so than physical. And I wasn't able to perform anywhere close to my physical capabilities, but mentally I was there and got it done. So
Well, you know, I believe that everything happens for a reason. So I think that happened for a reason, and you definitely had a strong learning experience from it.
Absolutely. Yep. I wouldn't trade it. It's all part of the story, all part of the tapestry.
Yeah. So I know when I introduced you, I told everybody that you were a 2 times world master champion. And so how does that make you feel empowered? What does it personally mean to you?
Well, it's a cool experience. It's fun to go to, I travel for work a fair amount. And when I travel, I always bring my gear with me. And so I train at gyms all across the country. And I'm certainly not like the biggest name that's out there. I'm not even a black belt yet. So I'm at least a year from that. But when people have seen me on Fight to Win and they've look at my stats and they're like, "Oh, there's a world champion in the room," you know, and it's just, you kind of like walk in and your head's a little higher, you know, you're like, "Oh, and you know, just masters, world champion, just a blue belt champion, just a purple belt champion, whatever it is." But it's still a cool experience to know that you were the best in the world for your division and your experience level. I have massive respect for the people that are competing at that level, at the black belt level. I'm really excited to join them here in the next year or two. But yeah, it's a cool experience. It's definitely worth all the effort, all the literal blood, sweat, and tears that has gone into it. So
Yeah, well, that's great. And I'm sure that everybody who's a black belt is going to welcome you with open arms.
They already do. It's a pretty cool community.
Great. So I know that earlier you were telling us about the ADCC qualifiers. Can you explain to those who don't know, like what exactly it is and what it means to participate in it?
Yeah, so unfortunately, Jiu Jitsu is not in the Olympics. Speaking of the Olympics, maybe it will be soon. It's a relatively young martial art. But for the time being, most people consider the ADCC our version of the Olympics. And it's for no-gi only, so you don't wear the karate-looking outfit. You're in like stretchy spandex clothes. And for ADCC, they don't separate it by belt and age and all of that. There is 60 kilograms and above and 60 kilograms and below, and it's everyone in the world. There's qualifiers all over the world for, I think, 6 months. And then those that win the qualifiers get to go on to Dubai and compete there. So it's a really cool experience. It's televised, and you're literally the best of the best. And there's some really cool exceptions when, a blue belt or something will make it through and get to, compete in that level against the world's best black belts. It's definitely an intimidating thing to take on. I don't get to be a full-time athlete. I'm what most people consider a hobbyist, and I'm going to be going to compete against people that get to train 3 times a day and have nutritionists, and it's all they do for a living, and they've done it since they were 4 and they're 23 and all of this stuff. So it's a little intimidating because the actual ADCC would be the day before I turn 40.
Hmm.
So we'll see if I make it through the qualifiers. My coach, I had talked to her about it, and I said I was considering it. She said she thought that was a good goal. And then when she gave me my brown belt earlier this month, she went ahead and called me out in front of everyone and said that I was doing it. So I guess now I have to.
Well, I think that's going to be such a cool experience, and I can't wait to, look it up in November and see where you are and how well you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. Either way, for real, it's a win or learn. I'll get better from it one way or the other. And, it's just like one more step in a 1,000-mile journey. So,
Yeah. So that is a huge step, and that's so exciting, honestly. Like, it's like you said, it's your version of the Olympics. So you're competing against everybody in the world, which is
it's
a
really,
yeah. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
I was just going to say it's a really kind of mind-blowing thing. You're like, wow, is this really happening? Even talking about it right now, it seems a little crazy, but also I'm here for it. I'm ready to go. I've been training hard for it. I have the skills that I need. We'll see if it's my day when I go. So you do have the opportunity to maybe like your test that you took, you have more than one opportunity, but you have the nerves. Like you just want to do well the first time, right? So if I
Yes.
don't make it in November, I would have other future opportunities. If I go to China or Europe, I can compete in the qualifiers there. So we'll
That would
see.
be
I've got
awesome.
more. Yeah, I've got more than one shot at it, so we'll see how it goes.
That's such a cool experience, regardless of what happens.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dubai would be so cool.
Yeah. So I know you mentioned to me that you teach classes sometimes to children.
Mhm.
Um, so I was just curious, like, what would you do if one of your students who was ready to get into jujitsu and who wanted to pursue it as a sport came up to you, or if you're teaching a sport with, I mean, if you're teaching a class with boys and girls, and a boy came up to you and said, "She can't do that because she's a girl."
What's so fun is that I train actually at a really small gym, and our head coach is a kind of tiny female, and she's just an absolute savage. She's a five-time Masters World Champion, gi and no gi, and so she has this amazing kids program, and she has these little killers, and the girls do fight with the boys. And so it's actually there's all kinds of memes for it and all that, but both between the kids and the adults, it's really fun when a dude comes in and he's like, "Oh, I got to roll with the girl. This is going to be not good training. This is so dumb." And then the girl just ruins his life. And so it honestly, that stuff works up on the mat really quickly because ultimately technique wins over anything. And so it's super fun to watch these tiny little girls that go out and beat up on the boys. And so really, for the most part, like I said, that all works itself out. It becomes an arena where we get to talk more about our physical strengths and weaknesses as a whole, as opposed to specifically about a gender. So be like, okay, well, triangles will be good for you because you got long legs or whatever, but maybe you're going to be better at your lapel chokes because you got strong hands and that kind of thing. So it's cool to separate it instead of being about boys or girls. It's just really more helping them figure out what is their specific genetics lend itself to. So
Well, I think that's so important to teach kids at that age because they go about life thinking, um, they go about life instead of thinking, oh, I'm a girl, I'm a boy, like we have different qualities and different features. They go about it as we can do the same thing. Like nothing's holding us back from pursuing each other or pursuing this sport as a whole.
absolutely. And it just comes with a little bit different of a style, right? You can be an ice skater on the rink, and I'm sure your partners don't think about like you being stronger and them being stronger or whatever. It's just, you have these different things that you're bringing to the ice, and, you work together to make this like beautiful arrangement. But you're not really trying to compete against each other. It's you're competing within yourself, I guess, if you will. And I feel like it should be that way across all sports, whether it's intramural sports or professional sports or what have you. should be less about what's going on with the gender and more just about, what are we bringing to the table, because females' minds work differently than males' minds. We're able to like multitask in different ways than guys can, and we're generally more flexible or things like that. So it all brings different things to the table. And instead of trying to make everything the same, let's just celebrate our own unique capabilities.
No, yeah, I love that. If I think that if everybody thought about it in that way, the world would be different and a better place in the sports world and just in our world in general. Like there's so many situations where things can just be fixed. And if people started looking at everybody as a teammate or as somebody who can collectively help you in the future, can collectively bring something to your life, everybody, there would just be no, I feel like there would be no more problems.
There is, like I said, a very addicting and beautiful culture on the mat, because you really don't ever meet a guy that's, at least once he's hit purple belt, they have so much respect for women by that stage. And it's I wish that all sports could be like that, where instead of, you might start off the white and blue belt dudes, not respecting women as much, and then all of a sudden like, whoa, okay, this person that weighs 100 pounds less than me can really show me where my holes are in my game. Or we'll have a lot of those conversations when I roll with white or blue belt guys now. I'll tell them, I say, look, if you want to just be the strong man and just like pin me down and whatever, it's not going to be a very fun round, and you're not going to get any better at jiu-jitsu. You know enough of jiu-jitsu where you combine your 100-pound weight difference and your strength, yeah, you're going to be able to hold me down. But if we match technique for technique, I'm going to show you where all your holes are, because my technique is better than your technique. So I'll be able to show you how to get better. And it becomes this really community environment of helping one another figure out. And for me, when I'm rolling against stronger guys, I want to be able to compete in absolute and open class divisions. So it's not just about, oh, well, does this work against somebody my size? I want to know if what I'm doing works against a 225-pound dude. So there's just really cool things we can learn from each other without trying to fill the exact role that the other person can do.
Yeah. And that's all we need, honestly. Like, that's great. So,
Yeah.
I personally have one last question for you, because I know it is getting a bit late, and I always ask this question to my guests. I'm sure if you told me you watched my show, so I think you may know what's coming up. But the podcast is called Play Like a Girl. So it is called Play Like a Girl, as you know, and I always ask, what do you think it means to play like a girl? Because I think this question is huge, and the message that it gives and the message received from girls, and especially young girls, is significant and can help them grow as a woman. So what do you think it means to play like a girl?
I feel like for me, playing like a girl, we have these, like I said, women's brains are just genetically geared to be able to multitask in different ways than guys can. And that can apply in life in general, but also specifically in sports.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I love being a female now in this sport, because I get to go onto the mat, and a guy might kind of go caveman and just be like tunnel vision, only thinking about one thing. And I feel like I can come in with kind of my feminine grace and intuition and ability to multitask and all of that. And, be able to manage multiple things at the same time. And I think women in general in sports have this. We have some beautiful examples in the Olympics of these women that like had kids and then still like are out there killing it, in their sports worlds. And I think it's super empowering to be like, yeah, you're a dude and all you do is train and this is all you think about. But I'm a female and I'm, caring about people's emotions and feelings. I'm having kids. I'm, bringing all of these other things to the table, and I'm killing it at what I'm doing. And so I just think it's cool, because I think we are doing more than men are when we're bringing sports to the table. So that's what it means to me.
Definitely. I 100% agree with that. So
So go girls.
yeah, go girls, honestly. I wanted to thank you so much for being on this podcast. I absolutely loved speaking with you, and your story inspires me, and it makes me want to get into jiu-jitsu, honestly.
I hope you do. If you ever do, let me know. Maybe we'll train together sometime or I'll catch you on the mat. But honestly, having been in the competitive world before, I know you have to miss that a little bit. And it's
Mhm.
cool to have this sport that like gives you a really effective outlet to continue to compete if you're so inclined. So it's pretty cool.
Yes, I will definitely look it up.
All right, well, let me know how it goes then.
I will. And thank you so much. If you ever need anything, I'm just one phone call away. And I hope you have a great night. And tell your kids I said hi. No
I will. Thank you again. I loved it. It was so much fun. Thank you for what you're doing.
problem. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, guys. Well, that was Erica. I absolutely loved speaking with her. Her story was so inspiring and empowering. And you guys should definitely check her out in November at the ADCC qualifiers. That's huge for her, and I can't wait to see how she does. But as you guys know, this is the podcast Play Like a Girl for the girls. I'm your host, Gianna Cambria, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye.